Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's third and final video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's final video. Day 10 will take us to the 31st of January, last day of the month. And we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. They run around a couple of weeks. And we'll have a look at the CFSV2 for February at the end of the video. But we'll begin bringing up to date with everything stratosphere-wise. So, bring up to date with everything in terms of the stratospheric temperature over the Arctic and the North Pole. And I'll get on that for you in a moment. Just say that the first video release was our 6 AM upload. And we've also released GMA Phrase. So please check out those two videos if you'd like to do that. Please like, share, subscribe on the vids. And thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. No live stream tonight, but we will be back live streaming as normal on Sunday. Hope you're having a lovely Friday as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Excuse me. Right, so we're going to start off with temperature at 10 HPA over the North Pole from the GMA. So this is the current situation. The current setup shows that we're actually still colder than average. So the grey line is a trend line for this time of year. Should be starting to lift up now into the peak of the temperature at 10 HPA in the stratosphere, which is around minus 30 in the summer. The black line shows where we've been with the temperature at 10 HPA where we currently are. You can see that we are below average at the moment. We're colder than average with the temperature at 10 HPA. Not significantly so. It was colder a couple of weeks ago when it was down here. But yeah, we're still a bit below average at 10 HPA. And we go a bit lower down to 30 HPA, that's closer to the troposphere. We can see there we are very substantially colder than average. So we're way below the grey line and somewhere around minus 85 or something like that at 30 HPA. So this is all connected, of course, to the polar vortex, where you have cold temperatures at both 10 and 30 HPA. That tells you that the polar vortex at its roots is strengthened. It'll be that strengthening of the polar vortex that helps to, or be those cold temperatures, but strengthen the polar vortex, dries the polar vortex, if you like. So the cold temperature, like the fuel that's added to the polar vortex. Remember, polar vortex kind of like the engine that drives the westerlies, if you see what I mean. And so we've got these very, very cold temperatures here, 10 HPA, which tells us about the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere, really strong. Not necessarily in the troposphere. There has been a little bit of a disconnect so far between like the stratosphere and the troposphere. We might see the strat and the trop beginning to connect with one another, though, a little bit more as we go into February, and that might drive an increasingly strong polar vortex. So let's have a look at temperature at 10 HPA in terms of a GFS forecast for the next couple of weeks. So this is the current situation for today, and we can see that, yes, we've got these blue colours, which are the cold temperatures at 10 HPA over the Arctic and over the North Pole as well. Now, as we run through, we can see that temperature will begin to lift up a little bit. So 10 HPA will start to get closer to average, probably somewhere around minus 50 to minus 60, but still pretty cold. Certainly no sign of any particular warming going on, except around the edge of the Arctic here over towards eastern Siberia and towards sort of northwestern Canada and that kind of area into the Pacific Ocean. But that's right, the edges of the Arctic. In terms of the Arctic and the North Pole itself, keep those cold blue colours going for the next week. In the more extended range is what the latest GFS is doing. So again, there is a little bit of a lift up in the temperature at 10 HPA there. Again, around minus 50 to minus 60, something like that. So still pretty cold though, no particular warming taking place until we get late on into the GFS 6Z run, and then we do see signs of a bit of a warming occurring over Siberia. These yellow and orange colours here developing over Siberia. So by the 6th of February might be, a significant warming of the stratosphere. But again, that is falling short of a sudden stratospheric warming. For an SSW, we need to go into the red colours, really, so we're falling short of that. And it is limited in any case to like Siberia and whatnot. So it was just something to keep an eye on. Maybe that could develop further into an SSW, sudden stratospheric warming. But up to like 2 weeks out, there's no sign of a sudden stratospheric warming. Just perhaps a gradual, slow weakening of the cold temperatures. So the cold temperatures might weaken from where they are right now. Again, that's how things look now, around minus 70 or lower. In a couple of weeks' time, we're around minus 50 to minus 60. So there is a lift up in the temperature. Nothing more than you would expect in terms of climatology, like a seasonal lift up in the temperature, really, and perhaps a slight weakening of the polar vortex, therefore, at its roots in the stratosphere. But in terms of an actual sudden stratospheric warming, no sign of that. There is a warming by the 6th of February that's taking place over Siberia. That's how the GFS is forecasting. So let's have a look at the ECM. I don't show these very often, or haven't done since we signed off on the winter updates, but I thought I would have a look at these today. This is week 1, 10 HPA temperature anomalies for the Arctic and North Pole. That's for next week, of course, so that will be the 24th to the 31st of January. We've got 6 weeks worth of data to go through here. So, again, these blue colours, the dark blue colours, those are the cold temperatures in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. So we know we've got a very cold stratospheric temperature next week. Week 2, which is the 31st of January to 7th of February, does see a little bit of a lift up in the temperature. The coldest of those temperatures at 10 HPA pushed over more towards the Pacific side of the Arctic. Just a general sort of increase back closer to average, really. Certainly not a sudden stratospheric one, but like as we've established, the temperatures aren't quite as cold at 10 HPA in the North Pole in the final week of January. Right, week 3 is the 7th to the 14th of February. And it looks like that. Again, no particular sign of any significant warming taking place. Obviously not anywhere near as cold as it is right now, but still relatively cold, with those temperatures at 10 HPA. No particular warming of the stratosphere up to that point. 14th to the 21st of February, though, does see a change. We start to see quite a significant warming beginning to appear, interestingly, around sort of Greenland and Canada. Which is a little bit different. Normally these warmings will happen from Siberian pushing, but this is like more focused on Canada, Greenland, North Atlantic for a warming. Probably falls short of a sudden stratospheric warming, but clearly the temperature anomaly is lifting up there through the middle part of February. And that gets more extensive as we go through into week 5 as well. That's the 21st. 28th of February. Again, I'm not sure this is reaching the requirement of a sudden stratospheric warming, but clearly quite a significant warming of the stratosphere is going on there. If that came off, I suspect it would be putting the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere under quite a bit of pressure. It may not be a reversal, but I suspect we would see a weakening of the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere at the very least. And it carries on into week 6 as well, actually. So second half of February, into early March, I can take us from 28th of February to the 7th of March. We do see a prolonged, quite significant warming of the stratosphere then for the second half of February, which, again, I'm not sure that's reaching the requirement of a sudden stratospheric warming. On the temperature scale, it's probably going up to around 8 to 10 degrees above average. So it is a significant warming of the stratosphere, but might be falling short of a sudden stratospheric warming. Of course, it could be developed further over the next few weeks, so it's something to keep an eye on. But at the very least, I suspect that would start to put the polar vortex at its roots under quite a significant amount of pressure. Of course, what we don't know is what's happening at 30 HPA with that. So, could there be an even stronger warming going on? 30 HPA, there's no way of knowing because we can't see those anomaly charts. We can only see 10 HPA. But that's looking a little bit significant anyway there in the second half of February. In terms of solar winds from the ECMWF forecast, so again, we're starting off with a very strong solar wind at the moment, as we've had through most winds. You remember, right at the beginning of the winter, back in November, the solar winds were very weak and were generally forecast to be quite weak. But actually, the solar winds this winter have turned out to be very strong at 10 HPA. We haven't seen that particularly realised in the, in the troposphere level. We haven't actually had a polar vortex of doom this winter. The polar vortex hasn't been overly strong, but at any point the stratosphere and the troposphere could connect properly, and if they do, because we've got these very strong winds at 10 HPA in the stratosphere, if we do see a proper coupling between the stratosphere and the troposphere, then we could really start to power up the PV a lot. I mean, we are talking about like record-breakingly strong solar winds, really, as we're going into the beginning of February at 10 HPA. We do see like a weakening of zonal winds taking place as we go through February. So you would expect that anyway, because February late winter would generally be associated with a weakening of zonal winds. And even right into the open part of March, actually, in terms of the overall ensemble mean, which is this thick blue line just here, that is generally still a little bit above average for the strength of zonal winds even into the beginning of March. But clearly there is a weakening of zonal winds. Some of the ensemble members are going for like a reversal. That's the 0 line just there. So there are a few that are hinting at a reversal of zonal winds into the second half of February. They're outliers for now. So, you know, got that warming being forecast for the middle and second half of February. The warming of the stratosphere from like Canada and Greenland in. At the moment, it looks like the GFS extended ensembles just want to weaken the polar vortex via that warming. Not all that much sign of a reversal of zonal winds, but there's a few that are reversing zonal winds at the end of February and into March. So again, something to keep an eye on. Bear in mind, even if zonal winds do reverse, if we do get a Stratospheric warming and a reversal of zonal winds in the second half of February to early March, there's going to be a time lag on that affecting the troposphere. So any sudden stratospheric warming that happens like through the second half of February into early March with a reversal of zonal winds is more likely to affect the weather into the spring, unfortunately. And what this might be hinting at is that as we go through March into April, maybe that's when the blocking that we expected this winter, maybe it'll be like March and April, that the northern blocking starts to show its hand, and after like a spring-like winter, we have a delayed spring and like a more of a wintry type spring. It'll be interesting to see how it all works out anyway. Of course, will keep an eye on that. No spring forecast from GavsWeatherVids, of course. This year, we're just resting the long range at the moment and waiting to see how the winter forecast comes out. Not very well would be the answer, but we're resting the long range at the moment, and so no spring forecast. It'll just be a case of playing it by ear and seeing where we go. Right, so that's brought you up to date with everything stratosphere-wise. We better make some progress then. We'll start off this next section of censoring temperature. So CT is now standing at 5.2, which is 1.7 degrees above average. That's provisional to the 20th of January. That will probably fall into the 4s, I would have thought, over the weekend. We did have a cold night in the CT region last night, of course. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. So next couple of weeks, we're at Aberdeen today. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature for Aberdeen. Looks very zonal to start off. So we've got these warmer and cooler and warmer and cooler and warmer sectors alternating with one another as we get to the end of January. Then into the start of February, first week of February, seeing perhaps a more general cool down in the upper air temperature, going a little bit below average. Then there are some quite significant cold outliers. I think we leave those alone for the time being and just say that early February might see a bit of a change to something rather cooler, but maybe also rather more unsettled as well. Precipitation-wise, lots of dry weather over the next few days. Probably gets a bit more unsettled into the first week of February. As far as 2-metre temperatures are concerned, they look like that. For Aberdeen, so very flat at the moment really, and maybe a little bit of a cooling trend as we go through the first week of February. In terms of what we're going to look at next, in terms of snow, so more snow spikes, quite significant, a number of them actually, for Aberdeen appearing through the first week of February. So there might be a cold snap there through the first week of February. I suspect, given how many snow spikes there are there, any cold snap that occurs in the opening week of February is likely to be more from the north than the east, because there are quite a few there. Of course, it's a long way off, and before that, not much happening in terms of snow, even as far north as Aberdeen. Let's have a look at the extended ensemble, shall we, before we move on. So that's how they're looking. We have sort of kind of eased off on that signal from the extended ensembles for a cold period through early February, to be honest. So it just looks pretty flat, really, as far as snow is concerned. Again, the focus is, though, for snow in that sort of first week of February, or first half of February, this period just here. Probably easing off a little bit later on in the month, and no snow, or very little prospect of snow up to the beginning of February. Right then, so I haven't got the temperature anomaly up, so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pause the video there, and I'll show the temperature anomalies in a second. Okay, right, sorry about that, everyone. I don't know why I forgot to get the temperature and precipitation anomalies up, but anyway, here we go. Temperature anomalies from the 21st to the 29th of January. Going to be milder than average for most central and northern areas, but still a little bit cooler than average down in the south. And precipitation anomalies from the 21st of January to 29th are going to be significantly drier than average. The latest wind flow map from earthnullschool.net shows that high pressure is dominating weather, sitting more or less over the top of the country. We have got a milder west-southwest wind beginning to infiltrate, though, into the far north. So, looking at some chart data, this is how the UK Met Euro is looking for midnight on Monday, when we've got high pressure dominating weather. Could bring some frost in the south, generally southwest wind zone, keeping it mild up in the north. High pressure goes on then through into the middle part of next week, and then low pressure starts to move in through the middle part of next week. So this brings wet and windy weather into the north and west, Wednesday into Thursday, and then by Friday we're going back into rather cooler and more showery west or northwest wind, as high pressure again sits just out to our southwest. A lot of anticyclonic influence. There might be a wetter spell there around Wednesday to Thursday, but overall lots and lots of high pressure next week. Right, so that's that one done. Let's have a look at Icon then, shall we? So for Icon we've got to go here, and then we need to go there, and then we will go to there. And this is how Icon is looking. So again, high pressure keeps things mainly dry as we go through Monday into Tuesday. Again, lots of high pressure influences. Wednesday, stronger area of high pressure than UK Met is showing. Then on Thursday, maybe a bit of a weakening of that high pressure, brings some wet and windy weather into the northwest, but still basically under the ridge further southwards. And then into Friday and up to the end of next week, basically, we keep high pressure influences in the south, mainly dry there. Will be a little bit more unsettled in the north, and with a very mild west or southwesterly wind, particularly into the northern half of the country. GFS midnight run, again with lots of high pressure influences around Monday into the middle part of next week. Again, that high pressure keeps dominating the weather. Heading into the end of next week, I mean, you can see it's turning a little bit more unsettled for the north, but still really that high pressure dominates at 1040 millibars further southwards, and even up to day 10, like high pressure just continues to be ruling the roost. In the more extended range, we tried to turn things unsettled, but we also tried to raise pressure over Scandinavia as well. That attempt at the Scandinavian high does not come to anything, comes to naught, as low pressure deepens in the Atlantic, and we go into an increasingly wet and windy opening week of February. Pretty mild with that as well. This is how the GFS 6Z looks once more. High pressure is in control of the weather through the early part of next week anyway. A bit of a weakening of the ridge around the middle of the week could bring some showy rain into the north and northwest. However, I don't think it particularly gets unsettled in the south. The high pressure then strengthens through to the final weekend of January. So again, lots of dry anticyclonic weather going on with the GFS 6Z up to like day 10, really. Actually, it could be 10 days of completely dry weather in the south, but north is a little bit more unsettled. In more extended range, the high pressure kind of repositioning slightly to our east and northeast. So again, a little bit of a hint of a Scandinavian high through the opening days of February, but again, not really coming to all that much. Just once more, keeping a lot of anticyclonic influences going then with the GFS 6. So the GFS is backing off the idea when it turns unsettled, to be honest, through the first week of February. But it is wobbling on that. right now. Moving on to the GEM, we look like this. So, again, we're going to have lots of high pressure through the early part of next week. That high pressure will weaken a little bit around midweek before it strengthens again into towards day 10. So plenty of high pressure still for England and Wales anyway, just a little bit more unsettled by day 10 in the north. But this is not like a classic unsettled pattern here whatsoever. And then finally we've got the ECM, which once more looks very anticyclonic through the early part of next week, little bit more unsettled later next week, particularly for more northern and western areas. We might get a bit of rain down to the south, but overall, at least until around day 9-10, when perhaps it does turn a little bit more generally unsettled, overall quite a bit of high pressure all the way up to sort of days 9 and 10, especially in the south. This is the precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from Tameteo.com. So a lot of dry weather until we get to the end of next week, and then shower rain pushing southwards, followed by some wintry showers into the north. Might bring a little bit of rain into the far southeast corner, but not much. And then we're back into higher pressure again, really, until around days 9 and 10, when perhaps it does turn more generally unsettled, and maybe rather colder in the north and west if these wintry showers heading into northern and western parts of Scotland. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10. Gets us to the final day of January from the Icelandic Met Office. 26 members of the ECM ensembles have high pressure to the south and low pressure to the north, and they're bringing in a westerly wind. Can be generally quite mild, mainly dry in the south, a little bit more unsettled in the north, and then 25, including the operational, so virtually 50-50 split. Have high pressure just a little bit further away, and low pressure a little bit deeper in the Atlantic, and they're slightly more unsettled. All options look like they're beginning to try and break down the ridge by day 10, but it's not definitive that the ridge will break down. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. It gets to the 5th of February. 15 members of the ECM ensembles with deep low pressure to our northwest, high pressure to our south-southeast. So again, that's trying to turn unsettled, but this high pressure is clinging on by its fingertips, particularly to the south. 14 with high pressure over and slightly to the south of the country. Again, there'll be lots of dry weather with that. 12 bring deep low pressure in off the Atlantic. That's going to be very unsettled, of course. And then 10 with low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south, and we bring in westerly winds. So these are the two options that are most unsettled. That's 22, and then we've got 15 and 14. The majority option then is to keep some sort of high pressure going even into early February across more southern and eastern areas. All the options, though, it has to be said, are looking relatively mild with that. There's certainly no sign of any northern blocking on any of those options, no sign of Scandinavian high, no sign of Greenland high. So either it'll be relatively mild and dry, or it'll be relatively mild and wet. But either way, the mild winter continues. And then finally, CFSV2 for February. This is today's 700 millibar height only forecast for February. Flat as a pancake, low pressure, below average heights to the north, high pressure, below average heights to the south, winds in from the west. It all looks very, very, very flat and zonal into February. That for the temperature line, there's no particular signal, interestingly, to be warm. But I mean, given the height anomaly, you would expect nothing other than a very mild Atlantic-driven February with above average temperature. So you'd expect that temperature anomaly to be significantly warmer than that is showing, kind of like what it shows here, really, across much of Eurasia and in Scandinavia. You'd expect those red colours to be firmly in over western parts of Europe. Very cold February being forecast there, you'll notice, for much of Canada and North America. So that's where the cold air is, and also potentially, round here, perhaps. But yeah, very, very cold February for much of Northern America. So that we remain Atlantic-driven, mild and zonal. In terms of precipitation, it looks wetter as well. So after a dry January, after weather did dry January, maybe it's going to do wet February, and we go into a much wetter month. We'll see about that, but that would round off what would be an absolutely awful winter for anybody who likes cold and snowy weather. That would probably round off like a snowless winter in most parts of the country. Maybe we get it in the spring, I don't know, but certainly as far as meteorological winter is concerned, that would be a very, very desperate sort of end for you know, people who like cold weather and snow. But it's all speculation, so we'll see. Right, if you've enjoyed the video, please do make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you sub to the channel. Thank you so much for doing that. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And don't forget to tell your friends and family about GavsWeatherVids as well. If everybody who subscribes brings a friend, we will get to 14k that much quicker, which is our ultimate target. But I think it's going to be several months before we get to 14k. Right, thank you so much, everybody, for that. And just so it's coming up to us, so no live stream tonight. As I say, the live stream will be back tomorrow on Sunday. Fingers crossed. And so just so it's coming up tomorrow, so we're going to have the 6 AM upload. We'll have the ECMWF 42 days / 6 weeks look ahead. We'll have a weekend forecast as well as on Saturday weekend look ahead. And if that was another 10 to 14 day or two. So epic day of content coming up tomorrow on the channel. You enjoy the rest of your Friday. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.